Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's fireside chat. I am super excited for the conversation, and we are going to get started here in just a few minutes as we pull up our incredible guest, Jamie Sallin, to the stage. So, give us 1 second while we elevate Jamie to the stage. Um, and then, why we get started, I'm just I think in reviewing the registration list, we definitely have just an incredible group of leaders from museums and cultural institutions across the country. So feel free to take a moment and just post in the chat if you don't mind. What organization are you with? What city are you in? Would love to get a better gauge of the audience. So feel free to drop that in the chat. And again, so I know we have a lot of new people tuning in today. So my name is Cameron Ripley. I'm the CEO of Community Boost. And for those that are new to Community Boost, we are a digital marketing agency built for nonprofits. And our mission is to help nonprofits grow communities that fuel their missions. And we've been fortunate to help support many incredible museums over the years, build communities, including Statue of Liberty Ellis Island Foundation, the Atlanta History Center, the Field Museum out in Chicago, Chicago Architecture Tour, who I think I saw on the registration list. You know, lots of like discovery museums and children's museums and theaters, and so really excited for this like specific niche conversation, which we're trying to just do a lot more of here at Community Boost with all the content out in the world. How can we be as relevant as possible? So yeah, welcome everyone. It's really great to see. Um, we have Kristen from the Columbus Museum. Welcome, and Grammy Museum. That's pretty neat. Welcome. We definitely have some Southern California roots here at Community Boost. And Jamie should be joining us here in just a second. She was just wrapping up another call. So. Um, Fort Worth. That's cool. I was born in Fort Worth, Paula. So welcome. Cowgirl Museum sounds super neat. So we'll get Jamie up here in 1 second. And I why why we're getting Jamie pulled up, I just want to ask, like, what is the biggest marketing challenge your museum is facing today? Feel free to post. What's the biggest marketing challenging? Okay, so Christine says event attendees can definitely be inconsistent, which we certainly going to talk about today. Yeah, limited budgets, and from Laura, which Jamie has a great story here of how she kind of really made the case over 6 months to expand the Atlanta History Center's budget, reaching new audiences. I mean, yes, this is all major themes we're going to be talking about today. So, um, perfect. So, all right, bear with us. Jamie's will be up here in just a couple minutes. Competing with other activities. I mean, Shauna, that is really the theme of this conversation, right? We're not just, for lack of a better word, competing against other cultural institutions. We're competing against, brunch and even the couch and the Atlanta Braves and everything going on. So yeah, thanks for the. Okay, Kat says number of event exhibitions to promote within the budget and the staff time. Yeah, absolutely. So, Al, how we doing with getting Jamie pulled up here? All right, Jamie should be here in just a second. Sorry, we had some meeting crossover. She has a very busy schedule. and yet we can't wait for this conversation. So Shauna says biggest challenge is trying to appeal to everyone, not having an audience focus. So yeah, how do we really dial into that core audience? And so really over the next like 35, 45 minutes, our goal is to be able to map to Q&A as fast as we can with Jamie. And basically, we're going to have just an organic conversation about how the Atlanta History Center, um, really has done a master class of becoming, the like one of the top things to do in Atlanta. Um, and basically, we're going to talk about like how to use location data to win over a skeptical board and secure that real budget. How do we build this digital strategy from scratch? And then from there, like how do we break down the importance of those always on, marketing between, marquee exhibit campaigns, which based on some of these challenges in the chat, I think really resonate. And then, we even want to talk a little bit about the future of museum marketing, right? And including how do we even treat, for better or for worse, some of these AI and the LLMs as a potential persona we have to market to, right? When people are planning their trips in new cities and looking for things to do, being able to have those tools help make you a part of the itinerary is something we inevitably have to plan for. So again, a quick housekeeping note. In the background, once Jamie and I kick off, we will then reserve at least 10 minutes for Q&A. So please fire away any questions throughout the whole session. And for me, I want to map to Q&A as fast as possible. So looks like Jamie's here. Hey, Jamie. Thank you.
Hello.
So welcome. And Jamie, I'm so excited to chat with you. Jamie and I first met in when she was at the Tenement Museum. And so a lot of we can talk museum marketing for hours. We often did that in the Lower East Side, and here we are on Zoom. So I really appreciate you making the time, Jamie. And you can kind of see in the chat some of the organizations that have tuned in and some of the challenges that they've shared. So give that a scan. But without further ado, we can just dive right in. So why don't you, Jamie, tell us a little bit about you, and then if you don't mind, tell us a little bit of just like that new beginning, when you made it to Atlanta History Center, like kind of where was the organization at day one?
Sure. Okay. I will try to give my life story as succinctly as possible. No, so we'll start with I started my career in marketing and PR and events in the private sector. Made a decision in 2015 that I wanted to take what I had learned and do that for something a little bit better than, I don't know, I once represented a mascara brand, So with that, I had the opportunity to take the job at the Tenement Museum in New York, which I did hear you while I was trying to get my tech figured out mentioning. So I won't go into too much detail about who they are. So I landed there and had a kind of a crash course, first of all, in nonprofits, cultural space. It's a different world than private sector. And if you can figure out how to navigate it, it can be really exciting and you can be really successful, but it is something that you have to learn. So I spent 10 years doing that there. And a lot of the things that I learned came from when I started, when I was introduced to Community Boost and was just kind of trying to figure out for myself, what do you do in this space? What will work for a cultural institution? How do you get a nonprofit to get behind the idea that advertising is actually critical? And so kind of spent almost a decade doing that with Community Boost alongside me, and had figured out how to get an institution to make that first step into at least testing the waters of the value of spending money on marketing and advertising. And so when I had the opportunity when my family had the opportunity to move to Atlanta and I was going to be leaving New York City, I was lucky enough to happen upon a job opening at the one, really major encompassing history museum in Atlanta, was looking for the exact same role that I had at the Tenement Museum. So that was an obvious fit. But the challenge was different. The Tenement Museum had a name, a reputation, and they had visitors. And so there were kind of different challenges and holes that we were working to fill, at least in the last 5 years of being at the Tenement Museum. The Atlanta History Museum had had a really wonderful investment over 100 years in developing this really wonderful product, for lack of a better term. I know that's not a term that we would normally use in the museum and nonprofit world. But they had done zero as far as awareness building. They had I'll explain it this way. I'm going to tell you. So they have about between a $12 and $14 million operating budget. And for that, they were investing a total of under $100,000 a year in real advertising spend across an entire very large organization that has 33-acre botanical garden, several historical house museums, and a full museum, a cyclorama. It's a huge place. And so the challenge here was kind of getting them on board with step one, and then being able to reach create a marketing program that could reach their very lofty goals of doubling visitorship.
Wow.
So that takes us here. Did I land us in the right place?
Yeah, I know that's super helpful, and I think that context definitely resonates really well with the audience. So, yeah, how did you go about it from, that team, the foundation? I know we talked a lot about you really leaned into data to then kind of make this case, and feel free to dive in there.
So it started for me. It was also an interesting journey in that, incidentally, the entire marketing department had exited right before I started. So we had to kind of start at square one. First, we had I didn't even have the passwords to our Facebook. There was no historical information left behind whatsoever. Our chief content officer had just started a few months before me. So there was no historic information there either. And that's who the marketing department reported to. And so the first thing I had to do, obviously, was just figure out what was what and try to keep the train running. When you walk into a situation where marketing and communication is looked at more as an agency that is delivering things for people's programs or different departments and whatever their goals and they're doing, and it's your job to market it, we had to really switch that first. You have to find a way to establish yourself, first of all, as an expert and someone who cares about the institution. And once you build that kind of trust and people know that ultimately you are just looking out for the institution, they will trust you a lot more. But you have to have that, or you're going to get stuck just spinning your wheels, making flyers or putting out single posts or doing like in our case or something that say like an author talk, and that you've got a squeaky wheel who's going to tell you do something for this. So that's where you spend your money when ultimately it's not reaching the goals. And so we really had to spend some time kind of tightening that up and gaining some trust. Once we had some trust, I had to look at what money I did have available to me, and I had to funnel it completely in the direction. I had to be single-minded about it. I had to say, they're trying to grow visitorship. I have to show them that I can grow visitorship with what I have, and I have to introduce these new channels to them, in which case I have to use that money for that stuff. So spent a year, I don't want to say making a lot of enemies, but disappointing a lot of people when you were like, I'm sorry, I got to keep my eyes on the prize. I can't spend the time resource or the money on this thing. I care about it, and we're going to get there. But you had to do a lot of that so that we would have a proof of concept. So we took a small investment. I called Community Boost because that's what I do, and said, we need to start a digital advertising program because they weren't doing it at all. And then as soon as we could show returns, we had a proof of concept and they were listening. The one step above, so like the C-suite, in this case, before the board, could see that this was worth going to bat for and getting buy-in in the board to spend on this because they could see numbers. The next step in
and then Jamie, I guess even being specific in those, you said this tunnel vision of those initial channels, like, for the audience, right? How did you prioritize that? What were those?
Yes. So I prioritized Meta
Mm,
advertising with you all, and then I really leveraged influencers as well.
yeah.
And it was partly opportunistic. You can't, it's not one size fits all, which is what I've learned. And so to get more into this particular business challenge, we had we did not have a lot of awareness, but we had a slate of upcoming large exhibits that would be
Hmm.
opening. The first of which was going to come 6 months after I started, which was the opening of our children's experience. So that opened us up. That obviously told me that speak to a family audience because that's what I have in front of me. That's the sense of urgency I have right now. Um, so that being the case, how can I reach that particular audience? And again, this wasn't easy because this was an institution that was doing a lot of amazing things. And so it's hard to say to people like this is what we have to focus on right now because the first thing I need to do is get bodies. We cannot reach our mission if we do not have people to talk to. And if we are investing in a physical space, we need to, make it the what is getting the mission,
Totally.
doing the mission work. Um, so because of that, it made the most sense to reach them on social media. And so between the ads and influencers, that was the biggest bang for my buck.
Hmm.
So that first stage was in conversion marketing, 100%. Proof of concept, you need conversion marketing. Long term, you need a lot more. That is always that I will say forever that is your way in, at least, right now. Um, to get to a point where you can get to where we are right now, which I'll wait for you to ask me questions about, but which is a bigger investment.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's super helpful and I think really relevant for the audience who I know are feeling that, right? Like we have to kind of get bodies in, get visitors in. What are the focus there? Meta, the influencer game, which, helps get that user kind of generated content that we can then, repurpose. Obviously, doing well on search is important. But then I know you started to then even like do more data analysis, right? Of like the surrounding area and
So that's
then speaking to your board and how they think, like talk a
yeah,
little bit more about that because I think it's
yeah.
super interesting.
So that's kind of the next step. So we got to the point now we have the C-suite interested. Tell me how I can sell this to the board, and we'll figure out how to get money for it. Um, and so there were a couple things I knew that I needed. One, as we know, it's not an exact science. A board member of business people, they look at you and they go, okay, great. So we're going to spend this. What can you tell me? We will get back for it. And that's a hard thing to do. So there were a couple of things I knew I needed. I needed an outside source. I needed like a doctor's note. I knew that I needed professionals who I'm going a little bit more instinctual. I'm a generalist, someone who can really answer the questions we knew they'd have, which is what's our
Mm.
return? Um, and so my next budget priority then was hiring this role. So I brought in a data agency, they're called Babbage, to do a whole host of things. One, of course, we were making assumptions. If we were going to go out and try to speak to an audience, we need to really know um, what the market thought of us and what our own visitors thought of us. So that was, of course, a portion of this. And then the other portion of this was cell phone data, basically proprietary software. A lot of these data companies, they have them or what they work with. And you can really track people to literally 10 feet of,
Right.
of likely where they live. And so with this, we were able to confirm what my assumption was, which was we did not have a product issue. We just had an awareness issue. And that if people would know about us, um, if they would know about us, they would come. I just lost my train of thought. Where was I?
Just with
Oh,
the
data. So we had to hire
data
them.
set of
So the
it.
other thing, the proprietary. So what this was able to show us was that in 25 zip codes in like a 20-mile radius, we had penetration and nowhere near saturation, which represents opportunity. And that
Mhm.
is a business case to put in front of someone. And that is not something we could have articulated without access to that kind of data. And also, at least for me and my board and my C-suite, someone who has a specific expertise in this who can sign off on it and can say, yes, what you're seeing is true. Your assumptions are correct. This is how you should tackle it. And so with that information, we were able to say, look, we all want tourists to come to our attractions. We all want locals to come. We all want school groups. We all want all of these people. But where's your majority of your opportunity? And in our case, it's a local audience. And so we are driving all of our advertising, all of our marketing specifically towards these zip codes to try to increase the penetration rate. It is a numbers game. It is a small numbers game. And when the board could look at it, once all of this had been created, they were able to go like, well, of course we would do this. How could we not do this? So that was definitely a big part of it. That and the proof of concept are what got us to the board signing off on a major investment, which I can tell you this institution would not have imagined ever, ever, ever happening 3 years ago. So you really can get there.
Yeah, and it's exciting, right? And we've seen all those numbers, and really, like we always use this internal language, right? Like our goal is to make the museums we partner with, one of the things to do in that city. And it's been really incredible to see what you've led, and congrats. There's a lot of both, relationships internally, but then you got to drive the results, and you've done a great job. And so, Kristen here in the chat just asked a little bit around like what numbers were you looking for to grow, attendance, program attendance. But it kind of, that question also, it sparked me a little bit on just like that full funnel, right? And how do you guys think about that, from visitor to member to, donor, and, talk a little bit about your, philosophies there.
Sure. So for us, this was purely a numbers game. We wanted a first touch point, and it's a journey. So what is the lowest hanging fruit touch point to get people in our universe? That's what we want. All we need for that is, well, it's great if they've stepped foot, here, and also have an email address, of course, and then you can continue to communicate. And that lowest hanging fruit in the largest amount of numbers is going to be general attendance. Mm-hmm. So to say that, for instance, we have a robust author talk program that always did well here. Even if we grew it, even if we optimize that to its highest levels, it's not going to move the needle from an attendance and attendance revenue perspective. And so, or not, not enough. So we focused really high on just what is the easiest way to get a first touch point. And for us, that's general attendance. And just to speak to your question about numbers, we're looking to double. And we did double in the first year before we started just with the small investment. Of course, the doubling was smaller. Yep. But
that's massive, though. I mean,
it would help you probably to know, like, we're not really going from 2 to 4 people. It was like, 140,000 people. But we have a very large museum. Let me just say that. Like, this is a large operation. To support that, you do need a lot of visitorship. It's not a small place. So the goal now is the strategic plan is to double visitorship again over a 3-year period. And it is all based on a strategy of spending in advertising marketing. The other thing we did was we looked at our peers. We had a spreadsheet of like 6 peers, their operating budgets, their visitorship, and their investment in advertising, because all of that is available. We were able to find that out, and we just put it in front of everyone because it made us look like idiots, not to have had, so yeah, it's a journey. Now we just have to see if we do it, but we are tracking it. We didn't just use the data company to create the plan, help us sell it to the board and go pat ourselves on the back and go, yes, we've got this money. We have to figure out if we want to continue, because this has to be on all the time. We got this initial money. If we're not able to continue to sell the value of this, it'll drop off, and we'll have it here and there for, we'll have a big exhibit that opens. There'll be funding attached to it, and we'll advertise for it. That it will not ultimately work. You have to be bringing as many people in the top of funnel and then ushering them through, different stages of relationship, membership, which is, I think, what you were getting.
Yeah, no, it's so, on that journal and that funnel you're referencing, we've chatted about, right? Like where you had that nuance where at times, there might have been a perception that membership could even be cannibalizing some of the more shorter term visitor revenue, right? But you know, we know how important really driving membership is and building that, community. But could you talk a little bit more about that? Like
Yeah.
how do you align everyone on like that vision and those numbers?
Yeah, it was an interesting challenge that I didn't necessarily
Mhm.
foresee happening, but a lot of it has to do with the way that the way that a budget works too, and how you're looking at, okay, I have revenue coming in from visitors. So, okay, what happened was we doubled visitorship and then went, wait, why aren't we hitting budget? Like what's gone wrong here? We have beat all of our goals for people in the building and we were not giving the tickets away for free.
Mhm.
So how did this happen? And what was happening was we were doing a really good job of converting people to membership. And once that happened, they left one revenue line and went into another. And
Mhm.
so it appeared like we were not hitting our goals. And so of course your instinct is to go, okay, let's stop trying to get members. Let me get some people who are just paying ticket to get this number up and hit my goals and look like I supported um, this effort. And that is an unhealthy way to look at it. And so, but what helped us to be able to overcome that again was our having a data partner, someone who is able to say, yes, business, the way this works, this is this is not the way you need to look at it. This needs to live in like an annual pass kind of, thought and a stop on a roadmap to cultivate, and that it has value. So how you're setting up to track success is so important if you are going to build a healthy marketing and advertising program. And for that, you really do need some experts. That's where your first budget should go if you get it, is understanding the data and how to track it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why, digital is exciting because we do have all that data, but to your point, it's also like even with membership and there's all this like future, well, what is the LTV of this, right? Yes, we're converting, there might be a short-term revenue hit if we're thinking of it in that way, but there's almost tiers to those members of how, some of those might have a lot of capacity. And if they've been a member for X years, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you get people making a transformational gift or, estate planning or whatever it is. Um, there's actually Maddie asked, or no, sorry, it was Laura. And if you don't mind sharing, but like, what is your current ad mix and is it still only digital or like, how is that expanded?
Sure. So we are just about to transition into a much larger program where it goes beyond digital and out of home comes into the picture. Again, that is important for us for this strategy because we are going for a pretty hyper local audience. Like
Mhm.
we could actually have some headway with having out of home. So we're going to have that. We have digital. We're of course adding um, more Google to it. So we're expanding digital and we are adding out of home. So this is supposed to be what someone will tell you is like your full scale, like healthy, keep the machine running um, kind of mix.
Yeah, that's I mean it's been really really cool. Thank you for sharing that story. And I think that's for all the museum marketers on this call find it super interesting. Yeah, I have one more question just about kind of the future of museum marketing and to get a little more sci-fi with you. But with feel free to get your questions in the chat, as long as Jamie's willing to give us some time. Definitely want to map to Q&A for the group. So feel free to drop any questions you have based on Jamie's experience there. Um, but yeah, I mean, you talked a little bit about like influencers and creators and, that user generated content, which I don't think that's going anywhere, in my opinion, at least not in the short term. But we also had an interesting chat too of like how you're almost thinking about some of these AI tools as a potential persona, and I just kind of wanted to pick your brain on that. And then anything else that you think is, you know, it's like something you or keeping you up at night around the future of museum marketing. So
Yeah. So yeah, the influence is definitely one to keep up. And one thing I didn't mention that I want to circle back to on that is what's been so transformative about the way we use influencers is not one-off paying an influencer to do negotiating a couple posts or whatever that means. We negotiate full rights for 30 days to the content and then put money behind Meta in order to have that in everyone's feeds for 30 days. So that makes it such an exponential value. So just to say about the influencers. For AI,
And
yeah.
that is just genius. I mean, it sounds so simple, but and I do think it's something leadership teams they like get that now. Like we need TikTokified content. Sorry about that. To then but how you negotiate that to then in essence source that type of content, it's just smart. So sorry, keep going on the AI front.
No, it's fine. So for AI, I started looking at really what AI meant for me as a marketing professional about a year ago. And we started talking to some, like Harvard guys who were just kind of like thinking about this stuff and starting to put together ways in which places could dip their toe. So we were looking at two tracks. One we looked at was just taking our website and going, how can we be best for visibility, AI visibility, making sure that everything is built in a way that AI is going to be crawling it. And so that has to do, first of all, with just making sure that your whoever is working with your websites is looking in and doing that kind of work. And overall, the way we're looking at AI is as another persona. So that's kind of what they taught us, is that you've got your, for your affluent achievers and your urban explorers, and then you have your AI, you have your bots, because that is who ultimately is going to be choosing and delivering what information to provide. It's how people are interacting with web content now. And so that's one thing that was really important to us. And then the other is actually even looking at how we build a website that is AI, that is in itself, that is curated in a way where people are typing into, they're still getting my same content, but they're getting it in a way that they have now become accustomed to receiving information. So that's kind of next level. But the idea of looking at a persona has really changed the way we look at everything. Because we're all taught to look at those personas and do everything we're doing in marketing towards them. And that really kind of changes everything when you have to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I think that AI tools are going to have a massive impact in the museum space too, just with trip planning, right? I'm going to Atlanta with my family, blah blah blah. What should we do, right? Like how do we hit that itinerary? And
Well,
we're actually
funding for it. If you're thinking about, like, if there is anyone on here going, great, AI, I can't even get, like at basic SEO, find money to do that. It's our responsibility as institutions of learning who provide really credible and important source of information out there in the world. It's our responsibility to make sure that information gets out there. And when now people are using AI to find out information like facts, and in our case for history, it's our responsibility to make sure that our stuff is coming up for that if we're credible sources. So I've been using that line, and it's been helpful to kind of perk ears a little bit of like, oh, we do need to invest in this. We should be funding this. There should be funders doing this sort of work in nonprofit space.
I like that. That's a great way to like go to potential, major donors to fund some of that effort. And, just even in the current model, I think it's like, what are the top 10 to 15 questions we think, someone might be searching within these tools and doing well. So let's map to some of the Q&A. Thank you so much, Jamie. Philip Gross asks, do you receive Google Ag Grant funds? And if so, how have you optimized to make the most of it? We find it's not budget, but a demand issue. We're a Holocaust museum or center.
Yeah. For the Google Ag Grant, yes, we definitely use one. And I was introduced, really, I feel like, to the grant by Community Boost way back at Tenement Museum, because that's what happened. I found out, that's the story. That's right. It's been so long now. I found out we had a Google Ag Grant. no one had done anything with it. And I got a call from baby Cameron. No, to tell me that he could help me with that.
Mhm.
So, and that was actually the first proof of concept to actual like a digital spend from the higher ups for them to be like, oh, you had this money was free and look what your return was on it. So when I came here, they did not have one. And so we got it up and running and I gave it to Community Boost and had them get it spending. But you should always have a Google Ad Grant. It should always be running. It will not do the job for you. It will not do the whole thing, but it is an important part of a healthy marketing
Mhm.
program for a nonprofit.
And it's a great way, to your point, to like validate, hey, like search can work. We can track these things. This is a 1 + 1 = 3 situation
Yeah.
if I even have some paid, Google search budget as well. Um, and then let's see, Jamie asked, hey Jamie, thanks for tuning in. But she said, you said the marketing department was originally viewed as an agency. How would you say it's viewed now?
Um, I'd say that it is used as okay, so that didn't happen alone. We also did a lot of work as an institution to land on some actual like top level institutional direction, which that helped to support as well. But now people tell us, we come to them and we say, what are you working on? What are you doing this year? And then we tell them how we can help them reach their goals with it. It used to be, it came to us, we have this program, I'd like a flyer, I'd like this size, I'd like you to do a post on social media. And we were taking
Mhm.
orders
Right.
from people who shouldn't have to think about like that's what we're here for. Otherwise, we're not really doing our job. So now we're viewed as more of the people who the experts, the people who can deliver stuff out, and they trust us to make the decisions on what that means as far as where we invest and how we frame it, what bucket it goes under as far as larger objectives that are being marketed at the same time. Um, so yeah.
I mean, I love that. Kind of some group questions here. So Kat asked, where do you prioritize in-house capabilities versus leaning in on agency support? And then Kristen, in a similar note, says also like, what's the balance with time and focus between ads and earned media?
Yeah. So those are good questions. To the first, I would say it's always shifting in-house capabilities versus outside of house because a lot of the times that depends on the strengths of your team, the interests of your team, the things that there are already kind of natural resources for within. But if there's something that involves an expertise that I do not have, I couldn't possibly have. Um, I'm going to try to bring someone else in to do it because also I'm going to learn from them and then I'm going to be able to do it. So that's a little bit of secret professional development for me. Um, but yeah, that's always hard. I can say out of house for our advertising is really important because when you're talking about a real spend, there's a real expertise that goes into, and a lot of time that goes into a media mix and a media strategy. And I would say it's a little bit of hubris sometimes to think that you can manage something like that in house and deal with um, all of the advertisers and providers, and you're going to try to assess all of that on your own. You'd need a whole department. So that's one area that I think the investment is worthwhile. But the ultimate goal should always be, I think, to have a consultant kind of pull that expertise internally and then continue to build your team where you can take more and more of it on internally. As far as communications, I also oversee the communications department of 1.5. So that's not a huge department, but we balance it by all working together. So it has the same goal. If the goal is to grow visitorship, then we look what are the drivers, what are the things that can drive that this year, and we put whatever those marketing messages are. It's the same in our pitching. So it all kind of is one plan, and everyone has their different channels, and that is earned media is the channel for my comms manager.
Super insightful. So Kat asks I'll get one more question here, and then we can kind of do a
Oh,
recap.
Tanisha. Sorry, I just
That was her note taker, I think, or maybe not. If not, great.
no, Tanisha.
Oh,
I yeah, I know.
oh, okay.
I know
Well,
Tanisha.
go Tanisha. But Kat asked, did marketing always have access to data and reporting across departments? You mentioned membership earlier, or did you have to like institute lead, this data collection and analysis effort?
Yeah. So I did skip another step in the phase one. Phase one was one of the things, there had been a data position that had not been hired for that was kind of hanging out, and there were conversations about development, and then ultimately this should live in marketing. I actually suggested I not have it in marketing because it is super important for whoever is doing the data to only answer to the institution so that they're collecting all of the information and sharing it across. So we prioritized hiring a director of basically CRM strategy and data. And so once we had that in place and that was really integrated into everyone's work, um, the data just started flowing into great dashboards,
Mhm.
and everyone was sharing and buying in and using it all the time. But that took 2 years to put on its feet.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. It's been really insightful. And I think some of my takeaways are one, you are an incredible museum leader. And I think this is also in a way, which wasn't even the first theme, but you like, it was inspiring to hear about how you approach change management. And you clearly did that in a collaborative way, but, presenting data, bringing data-driven decisions and a thesis to your greater team, which, a museum of this size, of course, or a center of this size naturally has like a lot of stakeholders, right? And so, one, kudos to you. And then from there, basically, it's all about focus. Focus on these key channels. You're gonna have to say no. You're even gonna have to rub some people the wrong way, but you know what you got to do. You hit those numbers, and then from there you can keep expanding because you had a huge goal. Your goal was to 2x, attendance, and that's definitely no joke. And yeah, and any, I guess, like final thought for you, or like, a little lightning round here for the audience of any additional final recommendations you want to share?
Um, one thing I would say to to what you just said as far as that laser focus, one thing, the idea isn't that marketing should be determining what's important and what's not. And they're not a gatekeeper to the audience. It's just a matter of putting things in the right order. So for an institution that has an awareness issue and has capacity and there's opportunity for visitorship, that's going to be, that's going to be the first thing. But then the exciting thing is once you have visitors and you get to start to focus on a lot of those other content delivery ways, because we're all in this work because we care about this. Like otherwise we'd be doing it somewhere else. So just to keep your eye on the prize as like you're disappointing people sometimes with having to make priorities. Like, the whole idea is for you to get to a solid place where then you can put the time and energy and resources into like building out from there. So that's one thing to not be disillusioned. We don't always have to be the bad guys.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for your time
Thank you.
and just for always being, such a great friend. I know I've personally just learned so much from you for over the years, and it means a lot. You made the time to give back to this audience. Um, I was actually having a conversation with, just catching up with another museum, like former leader, and we were talking about this capital campaign that the Statue of Liberty ran, and I was introducing them to another partner who's raising a very large goal, where this goal has grown as they're raising to create a Holocaust Center in San Francisco. So if this, specific museum audience, like if we like this, everyone on this call, and if you'd be interested in, a chat there about, capital campaign, I was thinking that could be something else we do for this group. But thank you for everyone for tuning in. Again, at Community Boost, we absolutely love supporting museums, and it's a core nonprofit sector that we really focus on and support. And I'll have my team drop a link in. And if you'd like to talk to myself and our team, we'd love to just talk about what you're doing digitally, and then hopefully could support you similarly in a way where, Jamie has really kind of grown Atlanta History Center's digital impact. So thank you, Jamie. I'm so grateful and really appreciate it. And please give it up for Jamie in the chat. Add her on LinkedIn, add me on LinkedIn, and we hope to see you at the next one.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.